you are sitting in the heavenly realms with Jesus Christ, and everything is under His feet, is under your feet. Matthew 8, 5 through 13. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes. And that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Amen? Wow, just I can go home after just reading this out loud and saying amen. You know, Word of God is so powerful that you can just declare it out loud and it will do what it is supposed to be doing in your life right there. This is how powerful it is. We had a lady came to our house today for insurance purposes, and she gave us a testimony of her 96 years old grandmother being healed from all her diseases just by declaring the Word of God over her life out loud. And she lived 2 years after that completely free from any illnesses. For her age, imagine 2 years, she lived her life sickness-free. Without any medication. Doctors were in shock. She could eat anything she wanted, drink anything she wanted, and she was just happy. God gave her 2 blessed years until He took her to be home with Him. So isn't it wonderful that, you know, someone at that age that everybody looks like the machine is going to get broken anytime because, you know, it is old, you know. But then God comes and overrules. You know, your knees are giving away, and then your body is giving away, your mind is giving away, and you feel like you are not the same person physically, mentally that you were like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And then you feel like you are getting older. Even you may not be old. Just because your physical circumstances can make you feel like you cannot function anymore the way that you used to. And you start feeling down because your knees are not like as strong as it used to be. They used to be. However, God comes and changes everything with one touch, and then you start just in your 70s, in your 80s, you're going to start feeling better than when you were in your 20s. I remember when I started working, when I was 19 years old, I was at a full-time job and working, and every 5 minutes I was looking at the clock. Every 5 minutes I am like, wow, it is still 9 a.m. I'm going to go home and I feel like sleeping on my desk. This is how exhausted I was. Why? It was emotional exhaustion. It was trauma exhaustion. I had dark circles around my eyes. I was 28 years old and feeling like I was 100 years old. Why? The life circumstances can bring you to a place that you start feeling so old when you are young. And you are ready for retirement. When somebody says, I retire, you start envying them. Oh, you are like, I want to grow tomatoes like Wayne. You know? Oh wow! Why I cannot have your life right now? You know, I met these people a couple of weeks ago. You know, at a meeting, and they are like in their 30s. They are planning their retirement. In their 30s, they are planning their retirement as millionaires. You know, I am like, you really want to retire? You know, why don't you find something you like to do? What are you going to do retire? They are like, we plan everything. By 40, we are retiring like millionaires. Okay, this is their goal, but it's not my goal. My goal is I am going to go to heaven, and I am going to take as many people with me as possible when I go there. So I cannot retire. There's no retirement, and retirement is not a good thing for you, by the way. I mean, I know that you had your party, but it's not a good thing for you. You know, I celebrate your retirement, but we're going to put you to more work than you have ever worked before in your life. But centurion is a working man. The centurion has 100 men under him, you know. 100 people are working for him. So it's not a small thing that you have 100 people working for him. I am coming from corporate world. So I manage factories, I manage people, and still we have online missionaries all over the world, creating new TV programs, social media programs, non-stop. So I know that the bigger the group of people that you are leading, the bigger responsibilities, bigger energy spending is happening. So this man is not like any man. He has 100 people working like he is a respected man, centurion. So in his community he is known, in his army he is known. He must be a successful man for someone. You know, when you are faithful with little, God gives you more. So he didn't start like managing 100 guys. You don't start, you know. I interview people a lot. In the corporate world, I interview people. You know, as soon as they graduate, they come and they want to get a job, you know, at your corporation, at your company. The first thing, they want to be a manager. You know, everybody wants to manage someone. But they don't know how to manage themselves. The only thing that they can manage when they go to Starbucks, they know the 5 to 10 things they want in their coffee. This is the only thing they can control in their lives. You know, I mean, where I'm coming from, you have coffee, you want sugar, you want milk, that's it. You go here, you pay for a dirty cappuccino. I told the girl, you're going to give me 50% off because it's dirty. And she laughed. She said, no, you make it dirty with the things that you put more inside of this coffee. And then you end up paying $12 for it. And this is the only thing they manage, but just because they got MBA, they come to you and they want to be a manager. And, you know, I have something similar, equivalent to MBA, but it doesn't matter. Like, you study business is different than running business, you know. They think that they know. But you hire them the first 3 months, they are late to work every single day. They don't have work ethics, but they want to be a general manager, you know. They don't know how to show up on time at work, but they want to be a manager. They don't work 5 minutes more than they are supposed to. They want to become a manager. People don't want to pay the cost, but they want the blessings. They don't want to go through the process, but they want the prize, right? But this man, this centurion, I want to tell you something. He didn't go and become a centurion for nothing. He became a centurion. It was his promotion and elevation. He started with little, and he has more people to manage. But I want you to look at the picture right now. He has 100 men, and he has a servant, and that servant must be a really good servant because he's going to Jesus, not for himself. He's going to Jesus for his servant that is suffering. So it is hard to find good people. When you have good people, you want to keep those good people. You want to treat them right. You want to take care of them right. Obviously, he had a good servant for him to go to Jesus to say, Lord, my servant is at home suffering. So immediately, one thing I always say, if somebody is calling Jesus Lord, they are already a believer. They are already a worshiper. They are calling Jesus Adonai. Adonai is Lord. So Lord is Adonai in Hebrew. If you don't worship someone, you don't call that person Adonai. I told you before, Judas never called Jesus Adonai. He called him Rabbi, teacher. But this man is a centurion. He's Roman soldier. He's a Gentile. He's not circumcised, okay? But he's calling Jesus Adonai. He's going to him. You know, I just want you to read between the lines, because when you start seeing people coming like Samaritan woman, right? She was a Gentile, but she became an evangelist, female evangelist. So Jesus sees him. This is an immediate worship. Adonai, my servant is suffering. Immediate worship, how he is calling Jesus, how he is referring to Jesus. There is immediate reverence. And Jesus says, shall I come and heal your servant? Jesus is asking him, what do you want me to do? Like little before, in the same chapter, Jesus said, the guy asked him, the leprous guy, he said, if you are willing, you can make me clean. And he called Jesus Lord. Again, Adonai. You need to know what you should be using to call Jesus. You know, if you want to get an answer, you need to become a worshiper. If you want to get an answer, you need to become an intercessor. Because in your intercession, in your worship, you are exalting Jesus beyond your problems and circumstances. So you are really giving him permission to operate. And that is why how you are referring to him. I am never going to refer man in upstairs, okay? He's not the dude for me. I don't have that kind of relationship. Yes, he's Abba Father, and he's closer than my brethren, but I am not going to refer Jesus, hey, give me high five. He is my Lord. He is my Adonai. He is my El Shaddai. He is my, El Elohim. He is my Jehovah Jireh. He is my Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Nissi. He is my God. And in this culture, we make God so much like nothing, and He is our mate. Instead of we are following Him, almost He needs to follow us. There's no such a thing like this. We're going to follow. Jesus said, follow me. And this man is a man of position and power, but there is something in his life he cannot fix. He's not able to fix. You can be the most smartest person, brilliant person. You can have, Einstein had 164 IQ. You can have 264 IQ. But there are things in your life that only supernatural power of God can fix it. I studied, I went to, Ivy League schools to get trained. I went to all kinds of things, but I came to a point of suicide with money, with education. Why? Because earthly things could not fix me. Earthly things could not fix my trauma. Earthly things couldn't take care of my scars. Everything I have tried were Band-Aids. And one day you need to sit down and you need to pull those Band-Aids so you can see how bloody it is in your life, how much you are bleeding, so you can really go to the emergency room of Jesus Christ and say, please fix this. And a lot of Christians are living in their lives with only trying to fix the symptoms, not really the problem. We are treating symptoms. And this guy comes and says, Adonai, I need your help. And he says, shall I come and heal him? This means I am willing. This means I am ready to come. This means, why? Because he saw this man is worshiping him. This man is a worshiper. The response of the centurion is so powerful. He says, I am a man of authority. What I tell happens. This means I command, I order happens. He has 100 men. And this was a very harsh, structure of a government, a Roman government. When he says something to happen, nobody is going to say, walk away from him, turning their backs. This guy is a serious dude. When he tells a guy something, they're going to go do it. He says, get up, go, clean. Everybody's boots. They're gonna do it. Nobody in this 100 people has a right to say no to this guy. This is basically what he's saying. He says, I am a man of authority. What I tell happens. I have power to get things done. But my power and position are earthly. This is what he is telling Jesus. That is why I am here, because my earthly position cannot fix my suffering servant. I'm here because I have the position, I have the power, but my power, my position, my money is not good enough in the circumstance. And I promise you, God allows things to happen to every one of us that we cannot fix it ourselves. We cannot. We are all crippled. We are all blind. We are all handicapped. We have where something is bleeding in our lives, so we can need and cling to the hand of God to do that in our lives. You may feel powerful, you may feel rich, you may feel that, but there's something I promise in your life that you cannot fix it, and it may be right here. And that is the worst thing. That is the worst thing, because everything starts here. So he knows, the centurion knows the difference between supernatural realm and the earthly realm. He knows what is the difference between dimensions. He has this understanding. And Jesus was amazed at his response. Jesus was amazed. Why? Because this guy understood that he had an earthly authority, but Jesus Christ had the supernatural heavenly authority. He said, I understand. I know my place. I have 100 men. I tell them, this one goes, he goes. Come, comes. But my authority is not like your authority. You are the healer, you know. Recently, we talked about it at our leadership meeting. This AI thing came out, right? The ChatGPT, you know, no shame here, no, I use some of those things. How many of you use ChatGPT in this room? Okay. ChatGPT, you know, you ask them, it writes anything, it makes a research about for you, anything, edits, and it became like an electronic assistant, right? Writes a lot of things, takes care of a lot of things. And right now, I went to a conference in California to get more training and understanding, and they told us 100 million people a week right now signing up for this. 100 million. They say no Netflix, no Facebook, no Instagram growth rate can match this growth rate right now. You may say, oh, tomorrow I will decide for it. No, it's not tomorrow. It's here right now. 100 million people a week are using AI, ChatGPT, some form of it, okay? I wrote to ChatGPT, I said, can you perform supernatural act of God? And immediate answer was less than a second, was absolutely not. Supernatural acts of God can be only performed but by our Almighty Creator of the universe. This was ChatGPT's response. You see, sometimes we think that how we are going to compete with the things of the world that are coming. I can tell you, supernatural power of God. We need to start tapping and reaching another dimension of God, to be empowering Him for that dimension to manifest on earth, so we can see the goodness of God in front of all the unbelievers, atheists, and mockers, and God haters. That is what we need in our lives. This centurion knows, okay, this is what worked for him, because Jesus healed his servant. Why? Without going there. Because it is super powerful. He said, just say the word. Just say the word. Centurion got it. Just say the word. Say it right now. Whatever you are dealing with, just say the word, Lord. Whatever it is in your life, say it. Just say the word, Lord. It takes Jesus to say the word for your circumstance to change. One word, the favor. One word, you are debt free. One word, trauma healing. One word, Lord, say the word. Say the word. I'm going to receive it right now. I only need you to say the word. That kind of faith this man has. So 3 points that happen in this dialogue, this conversation, that resulted in a miracle. Number 1, acknowledging of the positional authority. Acknowledging positional authority. You see, there's something called subordination, insubordination. You know what insubordination is? Somebody is in charge and somebody with a lesser rank comes and disrespects and disregards a person who is in authority. That is called insubordination. And it happens in the church, it happens with us, it happens everywhere. Where there's authority, you just come across to things like insubordination. Somebody completely disregards your positional authority, right? And authority, your authority increases the more you respect and honor authority. You cannot have authority in your life without you respect authority, okay? The more you are walking with honor of authority, the more God is going to release authority into your life. I'm not only talking about me, but I'm talking about every authority that is accomplished and established by God, anointed for that position. Because when we don't obey the authority, what happens? Rebellion starts coming, right? But there is a level of authority that we need to submit. And when we are talking about governmental authority, like what happened to Moses, if his parents submitted to governmental authority, Moses had to be killed, right? There is a level, there is a borderline, there is a boundary line about submitting to an authority. As long as the authority is not operating in the realm of darkness and evil. Okay, we need to put that boundary line. But acknowledging the positional authority of God releases the miraculous power of God in your life. God, you need to know 3 things in acknowledging positional authority. 3 things. Number 1, God's positional authority. Okay? God's positional authority in your life. Number 2, your positional authority you need to know. Because God, if you're a child of God, God is giving you an authority. God is giving you an authority to trample snakes and scorpions. He's giving you an authority that when you enter into a room, all the demons have to just running. Oh, snap, she's here. He is here, wow. This woman is a devil slayer. This woman torments us, you know. There was a girl, I remember, when I was doing one of the deliverance conferences a few years back then. She couldn't look at me in the eye. She was always looking down. And then one day she came to the altars, one of the conferences. She came to the altars to get a prayer from me. I said, look at me in the eye. She said, I cannot look at you in the eye. I said, why? Because she said, something in me is becoming very uneasy when I look at you in the eye. And I started hearing the audible voices of demons. And my demons are tormenting me when I look at you in the eye. I said, you know why? Because when you look at me, she was looking at me when she was telling me this. And I said, when you are looking at me, you are not looking at me. The demon is looking at me. I'm telling you, there are times that people switch their eyes. They are not looking at you. The demon in them looking at you. If you're going to learn deliverance, you need to know that. Sometimes I know, and I call their names. Whatever their name, I'm like, you talk to me. I'm not. She's like, what happened here? Sometimes people don't understand, don't remember that they had an encounter. Why? Because at that moment they switch to something else. They are not even aware of this because it's so normal. So you need to understand God's positional authority. You need to understand your positional authority. If you haven't taken your positional authority, this is a season in your life, you need to take your positional authority. How is it going to happen? You're going to start speaking into the atmosphere every single day. Every single day. Why do you think that I do deliverance? Why do you think that I do TV ministry? In territories, sensitive countries of God haters, Jesus haters, persecutors. Why? Because I take my positional authority in the territory that is given to me. Because I promise you, if you take your positional authority, God is going to release those territories to you. If you don't take your position authority, you are not going to get to territories. That territories can be courtrooms. Those territories can be lands, buildings, properties. Those positional authority can be government offices and places. The positional authority, when you start using it, what happens is the favor of God is being released in your life. You see, I know a lot of hardworking people, but some of them, they don't have to toil that hard. They toil so hard. The reason is they don't use their positional authority and they do everything with fleshly effort. And if you are operating in the fleshly effort and you are not using your positional authority, you are working double shift and you are exhausted mentally, physically, and emotionally. That is not God's design. He said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, I give you rest. My yoke is easy, my burden is light." So if you are not doing it the God's way, you have fatigue. Demon of fatigue comes in, you don't want to get out of the bed. You don't want to do anything. Why? Because you are allowing the demon of fatigue to come to you and steal from you. And by the way, there's no judgment in that. Happened to me many times. Why? Because I am not operating in my position of authority. You need to wake up, coming out of the bed, you start worshiping God, and you need to declare, "I am a child of God, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I can do all things through Jesus Christ who gives me strength. Who is in me is greater than who is in the world." He is the Prince of Peace living inside of me. I am going to pass the bar exam. I am going to pass this exam. I am going to get a permit from the government. I am going to meet God's divine appointed people in my life. You start declaring God's plans and purposes. What you are doing is you are taking your positional authority and you are letting the atmosphere know. Number 2, understanding the supernatural realm and the ranks, how they work. You need to understand the ranks. You see, you have a rank. You may not know it. You have a rank. You have a spiritual rank. Okay? Because you have a rank, the enemy sends you demons to your rank level. The devil sends you his soldiers to torment you, hurt you, attack your brain to your level. If you have brown belt, you are not going to go on the ring with a black belt demon. You're going to get the demon that is your caliber. And number 3, you need to pray an honoring request. This was an honoring request. Are your prayers honoring God? Yeah, there are prayers honor God. Are your prayers honoring God? This man's prayer honored him. Because you know how he articulated? You just say the word. That was his prayer. That is all I am asking you. Say the word. And immediately he put God to his throne. He is on his throne anyway, whether you worship him or not. But by your words, you're activating the power of that throne in your life. He knew how to talk. This guy knew how to talk. Why? Because he was a centurion. He had a boss. You need to do honoring prayers. You just say the word. You are sitting in the heavenly realms with Jesus Christ, and everything is under his feet, is under your feet.